Okay, so becoming professional network marketer part 3. So some of you have been here for the first 2 parts. Some of you might have missed some. I'll give the website at the end as well where you can go and download the other 2 parts. Okay, so steps, 5 steps to never-ending prospects. First, it's called an active candidate list. So that's what you need to do. You need to have an active candidate list to have a never-ending prospects. Now, first thing is to create a journal. Now, journal is just a notebook, you know. So it's a good notebook, you know, a book that will have all your contacts in there. So no, you know, scruffy notepads, no backs of envelopes or computers for that matter. You know, some of you are really keen on Excel and everything and putting all on the computer. Forget about that. You need a journal. You need to have a book that you can physically carry with you all the time. And that's where you will put all of your contacts. The second one then is to create a comprehensive list of all of your existing contacts. Phone, social media, you know, emails, etc., etc., etc. You know, and don't prejudge. You know, use the memory joggers. You know, who you know who's a accountant, who do you know who's a driver, blah blah blah, and put a comprehensive list of all the people that you know. You know, at this point, don't worry about whether you contact them or not, etc. What you're doing now is actually creating your database. And many of you, I mean, some of you are really new to the business, but many of you have been in the business for 6 months, for a year, and you've never actually done the candidate list. And how can you expect your new prospects to do a candidate list if you haven't done one yourself? So really, just give time to that. You know, spend one evening, sit down, buy a nice notebook, from the shop, and don't just start procrastinating. When I buy my notebook, I'll start doing that, and then never buy one. Just get a notebook, and start doing that. But just create a comprehensive list. Your database. Don't worry about contacting them right now. So just don't prejudge. Don't go, oh, I would never contact this person, so I'm not going to put them in the book. Put everybody in that book. Number 3 is living on purpose. So think about what you do all the time. So if you're at the restaurant, you got a good service, whatever, it's nice to meet you, blah blah blah. You meet somebody for a lunch, put them in the book. If you just met a nice person, who whatever, you like them, you like talking to them, etc. Put them in your book. Put them in your contacts book. Say, well, what's your number, etc. And put them in your book. You don't have to sponsor them right now. You don't have to, they don't have to be in your business right away, but just put them. It's a contact, and building a database, building a list is it's beyond important. You have to have that. And, don't be pushy. You don't have to sponsor that person the first time you meet. That just shows that you're desperate for it. All you need to do is just make a, contact, start a relationship. So, if you at least put 2 people a day in this book, 2 people that you thought of, okay, oh, this person, I know that person, and just put them in the book. If you do that every day, and from the people that you meet every day, if you put 2 people, that's 700 people a year. You would never run out of prospects if you put 2 people a day in your book. So you have a business, and you might say, look, I have a business that might be of interest to you, so let me just take some details of you. You're not telling them what it is. You're just saying, look, it might be of interest to you in the future, so I might, give you some info later on. You haven't met that person in a while. Great. Say, look, I haven't met you in a while. Let me put your details in my book, etc. And you will come up with a game plan on how to contact them later. Don't worry about it right now. All you need to do right now is make that list, make that database. Once you have that database, I promise you will find very good uses to that database. But first of all, put it, on paper, put it in the book, so you know who you know. And you should be actively searching. Number 4 is actively searching. So, join social groups, health clubs, networking events, etc. And put them into use. Start filling up that book. And there's a book by Keith Ferranzi called Never Eat Alone. I would really recommend you read that book if you're interested in how to build a database of people. And seek leaders. People who are best in their business. best at whatever they do. If you meet somebody and you go, wow, this person is amazing, don't just think that this person should go on my chicken list, on that list that I will never ever contact in my life. No, put them in your book. That's what you want. You want your book be filled of people who are best at what they do. And if you don't know anybody, no problem. Get better at knowing people. Get better at talking to people. Then you don't have to know 700 people right away to put in the book. Just start, just start talking to people, and be aware of what's happening around you. So live on purpose. So when you meet person, don't forget that, wow, by the way, I'm actually doing network marketing business, so why not I put that person in my notebook. Number 5 is social media. Now social media is great, but sometimes it becomes a bit of a hassle. We having more and more people who go, hi, would you like to be my friend? No, take a look at my business. Now this is the wrong way of approaching it. It's unsolicited. It seems like, you get unsolicited spam into your email inbox. Exactly the same way, if you approach people like that on a high street and go, hi, have a look at my business, it's just spam, because they never asked for that information, nor they even, gave you any, information that you could decide that they actually would be interested in your business or whatever. So start building relationships instead. Start talking to people. I'm not saying, look, you need to, fall in love with that person before you sponsor them into your business, but at least have a conversation with them. At least, find out what they do for a living, what's the situation, etc. Instead of just shoving, your leaflet into their face, or, shoving your business card, into their pocket. And don't use the medium as a way to prospect. Use that medium as building relationships, and sponsor elsewhere. Sponsor them offline. So it's great to find people on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever. There's so many sites, etc. But don't try and sponsor them right away. Say, look, it's really nice talking to you. You sound like a a really keen person, or whatever, a business-minded individual, etc. Why don't we meet up? If that's not an option, if they live, really far away, then say, would it be okay if I sent you some information, that you might be interested in, etc. So just think in terms of that. Don't spam. One of the biggest obstacles is when people, emotionally attach themselves with the outcome of prospecting. And what you need to do is detach yourself from that emotionally. So forget about thinking like, oh, if that person joins, it'll make all the difference. This person would be so good at my business. And I need that breakthrough in this business, etc. People feel, prospects feel when you're emotionally invested and they pull back. They feel when you're desperate to sponsor them, when you're desperate for them to join your business, and they will feel that. So what you want to do, it's think in terms of, it's not important whether they join or buy. It is important that they understand what I have to offer. That is what is important. Very often when my team members say, how much would you push the business onto somebody? How much would you try and convince somebody into this business? I would say, look, my aim is always to get the person to hear what I've got to offer. Once they heard my presentation, once they saw the DVD, or once they read the booklet, or whatever it is, whatever third-party tool you use, and if they still say, look, I'm not interested, then I would pull back. But it is my aim to get them educated. So I get invested in education, not the outcome. My aim is to educate as many people as possible so they would leave the rat race they call the job, and they would truly become financially independent, and they would get control of their life, of their finances, etc. However, it's not my dream, of sponsoring every single individual in this world. I don't want to sponsor everybody. Now I'm at the point where I'm thinking, whether I want this person to be in my business or not. I'd rather have a 5 or 10 or 15-minute conversation with them before I even tell them about the business. Because out of that conversation, I can gather a lot of information, a lot of intel, about that person. And, sometimes within 10 minutes, I realize that that person is completely, well, as bad as it sounds, is just useless. They are lazy, they are arrogant, they, know everything person, etc. And I can see that it would be a nightmare for me to work with them, even if I sponsor them. So why would I go through that hassle? Instead, I just go, great, fantastic to meet you, let me put you in my book, in case, I have something that might be of interest to you, but I wouldn't perhaps sponsor them in my business necessarily. But if I said straight away, look, I've got a business, etc., would you be interested? Then I might be stuck with this person for the rest of my life, having to make it work for them. Books is something that I found really, really important in the business, in any business, but in network marketing more than anything else. So these are just few books, Illusions by Richard Bach, Richest Man in Babylon, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Magic of Thinking Big, and specifically for network marketing, things like, Your First Year in Network Marketing, Formula for Success in Network Marketing by Chris Taylor, 45-second Presentation by Don Failer. There's so many books, really. It is impossible really to list all of them, but there's so many good books that you can read, and that will make you think completely differently. You have to invest in yourself more than in your business, and books is one of the best ways. Yes, it does take time to read books. Yes, for some people it is boring, but I think, you can't become a leader in anything if you haven't read a single book on that subject. What we need is a burning desire. It's essential for success. You have to have that desire. Unless you have the burning desire to succeed and to become good at what you do, then it's going to be really, really hard. How can you show it to others? And we need to understand the leveraged income. This is what network marketing provides. So you can never succeed in life by exchanging your time for money. This is what we do in job. When you go to work, you exchange your time for money, and it doesn't matter how good you are at what you do. It doesn't matter how how dedicated you are at what you do. You're getting a hourly pay, whatever it's £7 an hour, £8 an hour, £20 an hour, whatever it is, you're getting paid hourly. So at one point you will reach ceiling. When you start doing 90 hours a week, you will find out that you can't do any more, and that's when you will reach the ceiling of your income. So that is exchanging time for money. What we get in network marketing, we get a leveraged income. You get to clone yourself tenfold, hundredfold, 1,000-fold. What about 30,000-fold? Many of you know a person that I'm talking about. Irina Oliver. She's multiplied herself 30,000-fold by leveraging, in this business. And does network marketing work? There is a real estate example that was given by Todd Smith. Todd Smith was a real estate agent before he joined network marketing, and he says, look, out of 100 people who leave the real estate education and they get a license, only 1 out of 100 renews his license 1 year from then. So just because so many people quit real estate, would you say that real estate doesn't work? That people don't actually need homes, and that it's all just a fake business? Of course you wouldn't. So what that hundreds quit? What is important is those that stick around. So the only people whom this business doesn't work are the ones that quit. Those who stick around, it works for them. Sooner or later it works for them. So having a discipline to do what you think you should do, even when you don't feel like doing it, that is what it means to stick around for it. Not just say, look, I've signed registration form and I'll just wait for 6 years, maybe the money will come. Nah, I don't call that sticking around. What I'm saying is doing it. And you have to be constantly getting better at it as well. Don't just coast, invest in yourself. Like, you guys that are on the call today, you are investing in yourself. You chose to spend that hour with me, boring you to death, instead of perhaps watching your favorite soap opera or having a beer in the pub or whatever you like to do. So you're investing in yourself. It's so invaluable. It's incredible. Just because you're on this call, you already prove something to me. That you're different from the masses out there. and your business will only grow as much as you grow. So some people imagine that, I don't really need to grow. I just need to find a couple of people who will sell a lot of perfumes for me, and I'll just go through the levels or whatever. That's not going to happen. Your business will only grow when you grow. This is why somebody who starts on the first day would not sign somebody who's a diamond orchid into business. We've seen it so many times. We see people who join are fresh in the business and they think, oh, I know this guy from my previous company, I'll just go and sign them up, right away, and they go to the highest leader in the previous company and they go, look, I found the next best company, etc. And even if the company they found is really decent, the leader there, will they join them? Absolutely not. They'll think, okay, I like the business, but I'll make a few phone calls and I'll find a leader in that company. So this is what they would do. That is what you would need to do too. In order to grow your business, you need to grow with it. And what I noticed, when I started growing with my business, this is when I started attracting different people too. So by becoming a different person, you'll attract different people to your business. Now, inviting is really important in this business. Probably most of you would agree. So first thing, don't confuse activity with accomplishment. Many people go, oh, but I'm putting so much effort into this business. My question is, how many people have you spoken this week? I'm not talking about your existing team members. I'm not talking about, people that you talk to anyway. How many people you talked to, fresh new people, about the business this week? And be honest, I can't hear you really, so just think. How many people have you spoken this week? 1, 2, 10, 100, I don't know. How many? Maybe none. I've just heard of a guy who made just over $60 million in his network marketing organization. Now, the way he started by making 700 to 1,000 phone calls a week. Now, I don't even put myself close to that. I don't even do fraction of that. But imagine. Everybody would like to get $60 million from the opportunity within 10 years or whatever. I don't know how long he's been with this opportunity. However, how many people did you speak to? I can see Sam says that she's speaking to people every day and give them business cards. And that's great. This is what we need to do. We need to not forget what we're doing. We need to be constantly talking to new people. So what to say? What would you say? So after you had your chit-chat, your social talk, etc., something like that. If there was a way you could increase your income without affecting what you're currently doing, would you be open to it? And would you be open to learning more about it? Now, you see, there's a reason why I'm using would you be open, because interested implies investment. Would you be interested in that? That implies investment, spending money. Open implies a state of mind. Would you be interested in learning everything there is to learn about network marketing? Not really, no. Would you be open in learning more about this business? Yeah, I would be open. Why? Hit me, show me what you got, etc. So this is why it's so important. Follow up. That's again, the next most important part of the inviting. So based on what you saw, would you be open to learn more? Whether you sent them a DVD, whether you sent them to your website link, whether you gave them some brochures or whatever it is, based on what you saw, based on what you experienced, based on what the products you tried, would you be open in learning more about our business? Would you be open in learning more about our products, or trying more our products? Think about it. Use these words. And giving a third-party tool, whether it's CD, DVD, leaflet, or email, whatever, as soon as you before you even give it, you say, how soon could you listen to it? How soon could you look at it? If you're calling leads, just go, I'll send you some information, have a look at it when you get a chance. They might not have a chance for the next 30 days. So what are you going to do? Call them every single day? No, it's a nonsense. So right away say, how soon can you look at the information that I will send you? If they say, oh, I don't know, tonight when I come back from work, great, so then I'll put in my diary to call you first thing tomorrow in the morning and we'll talk more. This way they know you are actually writing this down into your diary and you will call them tomorrow. So when they get home, they will look at it. If they haven't, then that tells you something as well, doesn't it? Face-to-face is there. Guys, I mean, a lot of you thinking about lots of different things, and I'm as well, I'm a pioneer, I always like to look at different options, at different marketing strategies, and it's great. You can use all the tools in the world to create an interest. Internet, emails, calling people, leafleting, dishing out business cards, etc., etc., etc. However, at the end, it all boils down to sitting down with a person. It is vital. Think of all the good leaders in your business, how many of them have you sponsored by sitting down face-to-face to them? Probably most. So it's great to create interest on Facebook, on Twitter, etc., but then try and take the actual meeting off that. Try and meet the person face-to-face. If you can't, Skype is really great on that. Why? Because Skype allows you video calling, and it's a fantastic alternative. I never do telephone sponsoring. Very rarely would I do presentation over the telephone. I would always say, look, can I meet you? But now, if the person living really far away, I would say, look, can we Skype? Because Skype creates a video call. You see what happens, this is how relationships are built, via that connection, via seeing the person, seeing how they react to what you say. When you're on the phone, you can't see what they're doing. You can't see, maybe they, changing a baby's diaper, maybe they just flicking through the channels, maybe they reading a magazine whilst you trying and presenting your business. You see, when you have one-to-one, you can't multitask. If the person has to look directly into your eye, they cannot multitask at the same time. And this is why, one-to-one is the best. Next best thing, Skype. Because over Skype, again, they've got a camera, you can see what they're doing. So as soon as you see that they're drifting off, you can, change your voice tone, you can, do whatever, but just to keep their attention. This is what you need in order to sponsor people. What you need to do right now is write the biggest check you can imagine your name on, and then act as if you already got it. Now what we need to do, we need to stop begging people to join our business. This is not going to happen. What we need to do is have a posture. You are giving them a gift, not the other way around. It's not them who are doing you a favor by joining your business. No, you are doing them a favor by teaching them how to earn more. So you need to speak with confidence and authority. You are interviewing them, not otherwise. It is an interview. Even if you're having a conversation in the shop or wherever you're having it, it is an interview as far as you're concerned. So do I have confidence in this person? Do I want to be working with this person? Could I see this person meeting, with my best prospects? Think about these questions before you even tell them about the business. And you don't have to have it already. You don't have to have that confidence, that posture, or that authority already. If you are just starting out and you're getting another person into the business, just tell them, look, we are going to learn this all together. And we're going to succeed at it together as well, no matter what. Whatever it takes, we're going to do it together. We're going to stick, to each other, and we're going to make it happen, So passion and commitment, this is what, people will see from you. So if you haven't got the knowledge yet, be passionate about it, and be committed to that. When I first started, people used to say, wow, you're really confident about this, because I was, and even now I hope that I'm still quite excited, about it. I would be really passionate about it. And even though my check was like, £6 for the last month, it doesn't matter. I would act like it was thousands, and this way people would notice me. They would go, wow, this guy really excited about whatever he does. So I'm not quite sure about his business, but I'm sure, if he's so excited, there must be something in it. And there's a thing called deposit slip mentality. So doing things that will result in a deposit slip in your bank. Now, this is what you should be doing. Not all the other unimportant bits, but bits that will get a deposit slip in your bank. So, phone needs to be to your ear a lot of the time. Talking to a prospect, following up on the prospect, you're getting decisions, you're getting people started, you are coaching and training people, you're being productive with your time. You know, that phone needs to stick to your ear, those emails need to be going out, those meetings need to be scheduled, you know, it needs to be things done, you know. These things will result in deposit in your bank, you know, in deposit slip in your bank. And this is what you want. You want as many of these slips going in every day to your bank. You know, this is what you want to do, you know, things that result. You know, not productive, thinking is not productive. You know, what am I going to say? You know, how am I going to do this, etc. Trying to get it perfect. That's not going to be very productive. You know, just do it first, you know, and then you do, you know, revision and you see, okay, you know, this didn't go that well. I need to change this, that, and the other, and let's get it better. You know, if you do it, that feels great. I know it feels bad to start doing it, but once you start doing it, after you made those phone calls, you are high-fiving everybody around because you've done it. You overcome the fear. You know, your confidence starts growing, you start getting better at it. You know, if you do meetings, etc., the more you do, the better you become. I remember my first meetings, I used to be sweating, I used to be panicking, you know, I would come with 5 suitcases of all the bits and pieces that I need to do the fantastic presentation. And then when I done it, I started getting better and better and better at it. Then I would end up like now, when I go to meet somebody, I have my sample kit and I have my iPad. That's all I really need. I use my iPad to show the slides and I use my sample kit to show them the perfumes. That's all I really need. I don't need anything else. You know, because I got it all in me. You know, I've went through all the objections. I went through all the bits and pieces. I've got it all me now, you know, but it takes time. Unless you do it, that will never come. You know, and are you a player? You know, are you on the field playing? Or are you in the stands, you know, cheering and hoping to be there one day? You know, or are you completely outside the stadium and you haven't even got a clue what game is on? You know, so be there, you know, be in the field. You know, you need to be there. You know, why do we do the meetings and presentations and webinars and all these bits and pieces? Is to be in the field, to know what's out there, you know, what's the latest thing, you know. Why would you, you know, why do we encourage people to go to the company website every day, you know, and check the news and events, check what's happening there? Because there's loads of useful stuff coming out, loads of different things. But if you're not there, if you're not even, you know, you haven't even got a clue what's happening around you, how can you expect for your business to carry on growing? So, the greatness. The greatness consists of a few things. First, passion. Passion is ability to get so excited about what you do so that people from, you know, miles away would come to see you just because of that. Just because you're so passionate about what you do. Just because you're so excited about what you do. So just because you're so excited, people will want to see you. Number 2 is consistency. You're not going to be rewarded, you know, if you're passionate one day and you're invisible the next day. You have to be there, you know, you have to be passionate, you have to be excited every day, consistently, not just one day, you know, when you feel like it. If you're jumping up and down one week and you disappear the other week, how can that be, you know, a leader? How can people follow you? You know, if one week you are there, you know, in their face, calling them, emailing them, etc., and next day they can't even, you know, get through to you on the phone, they can't see you or whatever, you know. So you need to be consistent with whatever you do. Now look, you know, I appreciate the fact that some of you are just doing this part-time, maybe, you know, 1 hour a day, you know, or whatever. Great, but do be consistent with that. Do the hour a day, you know, or whatever it is, but be consistent with whatever you do, because then people can trust you. You know, if you lose consistency of your passion, you lose credibility. You know, because people will go, oh yeah, he's up one day, you know, he's excited the other, you know, he's not excited the other, you know, let's just wait, maybe next week he'll be excited again. It just doesn't look good, you know. So no one will follow you if you're not passionate every single day. You know, nobody will follow you. Number 3 is focus. You know, in order for people to follow you, distractions have to be invisible to you. You should be laser focused on whatever you do. You know, you have to be like that, because then people will copy you. If you are getting distracted all the time, this week, this is the best system, and next week this is the best system, guys, this week we are leafleting, and guys, this week we are using this, or this week we're doing something different, then, you're not focused, you're not, spreading the message, the right message. Number 4 is patience. This is hard, to be patient whilst you are so passionate. However, you have to be. How many people on this call want to be diamonds? I'm sure all of you want to be diamonds. If you're not, please disconnect right now. But how many would like to become a diamond within a year? All of you again, right? But for most of you, it's not going to happen. Swallow it, deal with it. For most of you, it's not going to happen. You have to be patient inside this business and allow this business to grow as your skills grow. If you're just starting out, if you've never done anything similar before you started this, don't expect to be diamond within a year. This doesn't happen. Most people who hit high positions fast already had the skills when they came in. Most people who hit pearl, amaranth, diamond, etc. within a matter of months or a year or whatever, they had the skills and knowledge already when they came in. Don't expect with no knowledge and no skills to do the same thing. It's not going to happen, I can promise you that. So this 1-3-5, it's going to take you 1 year of consistent effort, and focused effort in order to become functional and profitable inside network marketing. You'll have to develop some skills and make some money within this first year. And it's not going to be a lot of money within this first year. It's just going to get you started, right? This part-time focused effort is going to get you started. Then it's going to take you about 3 years to earn enough money to go full-time. And it's going to take you another 5 years to go world-class, where you can make as much money as you can imagine. This is what it's going to take. And some people, whoops, daisy. Okay, where am I? Right. So some people go high positions very quick, but then come down very quick too. A reason for that is because they're not ready yet. I've seen it a number of times. New people come in and they go shoot straight away. They go wow, 21% or even pearl, etc. And then it plunges down again. Why? Because they're not ready yet. They haven't matured. They haven't got the skills yet. So even though they achieved those results really fast, maybe they had a couple of superstars in the team or whatever, but they were not prepared to maintain that sort of business. They were not a leader they should be to be in that position. And that's why they will come down a little bit. And that's okay too. It's not a problem. As their skills grow, as their confidence grow, as they grow as a leader, the business will grow again. But usually it's not going to happen overnight. Usually it will take a couple of years before you see big results, before you see that dream money and those cars and those houses and those 6 months holiday twice a year, etc. It will take some time, guys. I promise you that. Education, that's why I ask people, look, how many years did you spend in uni? 3, 4 years? How much did that cost you? From 1,000 to 5,000 pounds a year, whatever, whatever your degree was. So that was what? You're looking at 20, 25,000 pounds just before you even get paid anything. Then 1 year, work experiences, internships, volunteering, stuff that nobody pays you again for. And then after that, maybe after 4 or 5 years, you get a job, by your specialty, and you start at the level, 15,000, 20,000 pounds a year, something like that. And that took you how long? So before you even get the money back that you spend on the education, it'll take you a year or a couple of years working. How bad is that? And in network marketing, we then have people who join and they go, I worked hard for 2 weeks, where's my money? I'm quitting then, because I haven't seen my 10 grand a month check. So wake up, snap out of it. If you're in a business, act like it. Don't expect to get, 15 grand a month, within a year. How long were you doing your job that you do right now? Are you getting 10 grand a year? Are you getting the Mercedes and everything? I seriously doubt that. So why would you expect that to happen in your part-time business that you're expecting 2, hours a week that you haven't had to pay a penny for? You paid 40 quid for a sample kit. So become a bit more real, okay? Number 5, you have to work your butt off. Number 5 is work. You want a lifestyle? You have to work very hard to get there. Success comes before work only in dictionary. Everywhere else, work comes first and success comes after that. You want to become a diamond? Go and take it. Nobody will bring it on a platter for you. Get out there and take it. Nobody will give you free money. There's no such a thing as free lunch. However, it's leveraged. Remember, I'm still being paid today for something that I done 2 years ago when I first started, in my first couple of months. I'm being paid today. And 10 years from now, I will still be paid for something that I've done in my first few months. Now, whatever you do right now, I don't know, whatever you do, let's say you're a nurse. How much are you being paid today for the nursing you done a year ago? Let's say you're a teacher. How much you are being paid today for the teaching you done a year ago? Nothing, right? Zero. However, I'm being paid today for whatever I've done in my first month in my network marketing career. It wasn't a great month though, but I'm still being paid for whatever I've done. Because the people I invited to the business, they carried on building the business. I've taught them how to do the business, etc. And today, I'm still being paid on that, what I've done in my first month. This is the power of this business, the residual income.